I'm Sam from Cultaholic Wrestling, and this is Graded for Friday Night SmackDown, where I take a look at the show segment by segment and award each sort of bit of grade from A+ to F. Now, we are hot on the heels of Elimination Chamber 2021. A lot happened at that show. What a show it was. And a lot is going to happen on SmackDown as a result of it. So without any further ado, let's crack on with it. Hate the intro. So we kick things off this week with a Roman Reigns promo, and of course down he comes to the ring with Paul Heyman and Jey Uso at his side. Now Roman says that he saved SmackDown at the pay-per-view by beating Bryan, but he's not going to be out here, just bragging about his win, because ultimately it wasn't perfect. Edge ruined it. So yeah, Edge ruined it by pointing at the WrestleMania sign and choosing Roman Reigns, which is something Roman actually wanted, but didn't want, but wants, but doesn't want, but I don't even know. But he says that Edge should just go back home to his family, and then out comes Daniel Bryan. Bryan sarcastically bigs up Roman's performance at Chamber, and he's like, it was so cool and it was so great, and he's like, but not everybody, not all of your peers seem to think so. Some people would say that it was quite cowardly. He also pokes fun at the fact that Roman came out and cost himself a main event match by doing it straight after the Chamber, and so the head of the table, the main eventer, came out and went on second. So he suggests to Roman that they have a bit of a do-over at Fastlane, and Jey Uso takes exception to this, gets in his face, shouts at him a bit, and then beats him down, and off the heels walk. Backstage, Edge approaches Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville to question how Bryan could get himself a title shot. In what world I thought I'd selected Roman for Mania, and Pearce is like, look man, it's just how the cards have fallen, and ultimately if that's lined up there for Fastlane, Universal title match kinda needs to take a bit of precedence. Elsewhere, Jey is apologising to Roman for his outburst, and Roman's like, look man, you don't need to apologise so long as you get the job done. This gets a B+. Roman, as usual, absolutely nailing it. Bryan playing off Roman's insecurities was pretty interesting. And then we had Edge questioning the whole situation backstage with officials, which to me just made it feel all the more real. So I really enjoyed this. Next up, we have Dominik and Rey Mysterio versus Alpha Academy, and here we go again. However, things start off with Gable on the ramp as Rey and Dominik are in the ring, showing what happened last time. So they run the tape, and Otis is enjoying it. Otis is sort of like, yeah, that was funny. So Otis further slipping into heel territory here. So once the match starts, Rey really tries, bless him, but of course Otis, just having that power advantage, is just hurling him absolutely all over the shop, planting him, grinding him down. And then he tags in Gable. Gable and Rey have a bit of an exchange that's a little bit more balanced, but then Rey manages to get to Dominik, and Dominik starts to bring the heat. Dominik and Rey then hit a stereo 619, but then Otis gets in to break the pin, hurls Dominik to the outside, nails Rey with that second rope splash again, and picks up the win. I'm going to give this one a B. It was pretty straightforward, but we have Otis a little bit more cemented as a heel here. More importantly though, they put Rey and Dominik away with a strong level of teamwork, and it just flowed really well, and hopefully this means that bigger things are on the horizon for them. Next up we go to Apollo Crews versus Shinsuke Nakamura, and Crews comes down to the ring first and gets on the mic. Crews says that people want to know why he's changed. It's all people seem to be asking him these days, when really nobody actually knows who the real Apollo Crews is. He says he's tried being nice, he's tried being humble, but given his status, that's not really what should be expected of him. He's from Nigeria. His ancestors were Nigerian royalty, and when somebody crossed them, they would show them the steel. He showed Big E the steel last week, and he's threatening to do the same to Nakamura this week. And holy balls! Where has this Apollo Crews been? Where? This was a great promo. So immediately when the bell goes, Crews is straight on Nakamura, and he just dumps him straight to the outside, grabs the ring steps, and before we cut to break, it looks like he's just gonna cave him in like he did with Big E last week. When we come back though, he's grinding Nakamura into the mat. Now Nakamura manages to fight up and start bringing the strikes, but this is very much Apollo's match here. Crews just keeps fighting back no matter what, and until Nakamura goes for a Kinshasa, he sidesteps it, and then Nakamura tries to lock in a sleeper. Now Crews claws his way to the corner, he's got a hold of the top rope, and the scarf he was wearing is draped over the ring post. He grabs a hold of the scarf, manages to fall back a bit while holding onto it, so kind of shake Nakamura a little, and then he pulls himself forward, sending Nakamura headfirst into the corner. He then hits his finish, gets the pin, and I'm going to give this match a B. The match was all it needed to be. The promo was utterly fantastic though. As I said, I don't know where this guy's been or why we haven't been allowed to see him, but the intensity was off the scale. Yes, on one hand, Nakamura lost, but it's not something to be upset about, so don't get upset about it. What you should be doing is getting excited at the fact that we have such a breakout heel star just waiting to happen in Apollo Crews. Who was expecting that? We then go to Heyman and Reigns backstage, and Heyman says to Roman, look, I've had to make it official that if Bryan wins tonight, he will face you at Fastlane, but the emphasis is very much here on if. Next up, we go to Tamina versus Liv Morgan, and this one is a dominant showing for Tamina here. Liv is just avoiding Tamina as best she can, using her speed advantage to get away from Tamina's strength advantage, but ultimately Tamina pretty much drops her almost instantly with a super kick. So yeah, super kick, stomps her into a pile, nice big suplex, and all the while Natty is on the outside just running her mouth. Liv just keeps bringing it and getting windows of offense and managing to reverse stuff and escape, but Tamina's just always able to grab her, plant her, hits her finish, picks up the 3. I'm going to give this one a C+. Now, it was a squash for sure, but it was nice to see that Liv at least got some windows of offense. It wasn't like Liv was outmatched here. It was just that she was kind of outstrength. She was able to keep getting around Tamina, but Tamina was always able to just grab her because of a height advantage and a strength advantage. I'm quite intrigued by this new Natty though. She seems a little bit more rough around the edges, a little bit more sharp. Commentary seemed to be, routinely putting over the fact that they're the daughters of WWE legends, that this is going to help them as a team. So, fingers crossed it actually leads to something good for them. But hopefully the squad's luck can turn around soon and they can be removed from this spots of kind of the Billy Kay stuff and just getting kind of ran through the mill. We then go to Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville, who welcome Bianca Belair to the ring. She's going to make her decision, everybody. So just to condense it down a little bit, Bianca says that the choices that you make define you, and then out comes Reginald. And Reginald's like, yeah, the choices that you make define you, but if you make this choice here, it'll be a bad choice. If you make this choice here, those words will be echoing around your head when Sasha beats you at WrestleMania. Bianca's about to square up to him, and she's got a handful of her hair ready to whip his face in, and out comes Sasha Banks. Sasha tells Reggie to step off, and he does, and then she tells Bianca, if you want to be the best, if you want to be the real EST, you need to beat me, because that's who I am right now. Bianca then looks her dead in the eye, tells her she's gonna prove it, and then turns and points. And we finally got it confirmed, maybe a few weeks we've known where it was going, but it's nice to have that locked in, finally. So I'm gonna give this one a B. It was a nice little trade-off, but mainly I'm just excited for this match. I cannot wait, it's gonna be so good. We then go to Corbin backstage, who's approached by Sami Zayn, and Corbin is a little bit angry that Sami has got them partnered up tonight. And Sami's like, you know what, man, come on, we got chemistry, you can't deny we got chemistry. Sami's also, by the way, got his crew in and around Corbin, and Corbin's like, will you just stop filming me? And they're getting too close to him, and that's an important little thing that's going to become a thing later. But while Corbin agrees with Sami that they have good chemistry, that they work together well in the ring, he says, don't ever tell me what to do. So next up, here we go. We've got the Street Profits versus Corbin and Zayn. So Zayn and Ford kick this one off, and it starts pretty easily, and then in tags Corbin, in tags Dawkins, and then the heat starts to ramp up here. Corbin is sent to the floor, but when he tries to come running back in, he bumps into Sami's camera crew, who are once again in the bloody way. They're just like this, they're all around him. So as he's shoving them out the way, he goes to climb back up onto the apron, and he's nailed and sent back to the floor. When we come back though, Corbin has control, although the Profits are just trying to put distance between them, as most people do when they're facing Corbin. He has an immense size and strength advantage. He's kind of looming over people like that, isn't he? So they're just constantly trying to stay the hell out of the way. Dawkins gets the hot tag and takes it to Sami. Corbin jumps back in the ring to settle the score, but ultimately gets dispatched, and then Sami goes for the pin but just can't get it. As Corbin's dumped to the outside, Sami's camera crew are all like up in his face and filming him, and he's like, what are you doing? Get the hell out of the way. And in the confusion, Sami turns around, he's like, hey man, they're my camera crew, leave them alone, don't be mean to my camera crew. And while Sami, is turned and shouting at Corbin, looking toward the Tron, and Corbin's looking back towards Sami, out dives Ford over the top of Sami and lays out Corbin. Back in the ring, Sami is then quickly dispatched and nailed with the splash by Ford to pick up the win. Now I'm going to give this one a B. I think the dynamic between Sami and Corbin is actually quite fun in a way. I don't know, if there's much longevity in it, but the idea of super serious Corbin and super serious Zayn, but they're both two different types of serious being pushed together, and then having the element of the camera crew for some physical farcery just going on around it. It just, I don't know what it is. I just find it entertaining. However, this was really all about the Street Profits. They've got to build themselves back up. They've got to get back into a position where they're ready to challenge for those titles again. And we did see the Dirty Dogs watching backstage, so, maybe we're just putting those threads in place to eventually bring this all together. Potentially Fastlane, probably Mania. We then go to Daniel Bryan backstage, and Kayla Braxton asks him about his chances of getting to face Edge at Mania. Will he be able to beat Roman? And he says, well, I think my chances at beating Roman are slightly better than Edge's, because after all, Edge has been away for quite some time. And then Edge pops up and he's like, well, if that's the case, then who wins the eventual match between me and you if we are to go one-on-one at Mania? And Bryan's like, well, I'm keeping that one closer to my chest. Next we go to the ring, and Seth Rollins has got a mic, and he says he's got wonderful news that that letter he was drafting and sending to management and kicking off at WWE, it did huge traction on social media. So many people saw it. But as he's talking, Cesaro's music hits, down he comes, whaps his top off, and he's just stood there topless in blue jeans. What a man! Whoa. So as Cesaro's storming his way to the ring, Rollins is like, Cesaro, everybody! And he's just kind of pretending that he's invited him down. He kind of just backs away a little bit, and he's like, look, the people are saying things, and they're blowing my actions and my words out of proportion. Don't worry, I can clear all of this up, Tony. I can clear it all up. He then says Cesaro is a star. He's one of the most accomplished technical wrestlers that WWE has ever seen in its entire history, which is a massive compliment when you really think of things. But then he turns it around and he's like, but if that's the case, then how come you always come up so short? He then says that Cesaro is missing something, and that something is Killer Instinct. And Killer Instinct is something that Rollins can give to Cesaro, and that's very kind of him, because Killer Instinct is a hell of a video game. Rollins then tells Cesaro that he could lead him to his dreams, and if you think about them partnered up, they'd be completely unstoppable. And Cesaro the entire time is just kind of looking off into the middle distance. After Rollins finishes talking, he sighs, looks at him, and then just sweeps the legs and has him in the swing position. And Rollins is there, still in his little white jacket, with the mic, in swing position, just going, hey, stop it, put me down, don't do this, don't. And he's just swinging him the entire time. Rollins' arms get thrown out from the centrifugal force, but he's still holding the mic, so you can just hear him going, as he's going round and round. He gets swung so fast because Cesaro picks up the speed that the mic goes flying, and then his entire jacket just goes yeet, just completely flies off. He then nails him with an uppercut and walks off, and this gets an A. Cesaro just looking dominant here, shooting him down, not buying into his bollocks. And what a feud this could be. This is just getting me so excited. The idea of Cesaro with somebody like Rollins, this is a feud that could go on and work really, really well. And finally, it's time for our main event of the evening, which is Daniel Bryan versus Jey Uso, which was set up way back at the start of the show. Yeah, just right back in that opening promo. So Bryan's still got a bit of a bad leg from the chamber, but Jey explodes onto him when the match starts, and he's just going for him, laying in strikes, and shoulder blocks him. Bryan, though, is a bit wily, a bit wiry, and he's managing to escape Jey and just move around him, and he's working over that left arm, and Jey's arm is just getting wrenched and wrenched and wrenched into positions that just do not look comfortable at all. He hits a high knee to the corner, he hits a Rana off the top onto Jey, and then Jey escapes to the outside. Now Bryan sees him, looks at him, goes, bounces off the ropes, comes to hit a dive, but is met straight away with Jey's foot, and then Jey gets him when he's on the floor, picks him up, like scrapes him off the ground, lifts him knee first, plants him into the announce table, plants him into the ring post, and Bryan's bad leg is about to be obliterated. So Bryan's fighting valiantly when we come back, but Jey is just on him like a wolf. He's just like punching, like straight up at one point, just got his leg pinned down and just punching it against the mat. He scrapes Bryan off the floor, hits him with the Samoan drop, lines up for the splash, but Bryan rolls out the way. He starts up with the yes kicks, he sends Jey to the floor, he goes up top, he comes off, but Jey moves out the way, he manages to adjust his landing, and so he doesn't like plant himself, but he lands on his feet, but he tweaks his knee. Jey then swoops in with a half crab and he's just torquing that knee to absolute bits. Bryan's rolling through and finally manages to reverse it. Jey super kicks him, Bryan kicks out, and then Jey goes up top for the splash, but Bryan cuts him off. He hits him with this massive butterfly suplex off the top rope, which... How didn't his arms just explode at the shoulders? I don't understand how that works. If your arms are pinned back and you're going off the top, what? But yeah, following the suplex, Bryan locks in the yes lock. Jey claws his way to the ropes, manages to escape, and then goes to the outside. Now Bryan comes to the outside, and Jey immediately drives him into the ring steps, and the referee's just counting. 5, 6, 7, 8, as Jey is just continuing the beat down. 9, Bryan's fighting back. 10, they're both counted out. Bryan technically, he didn't win the match. It's a draw. It's a draw. They were both counted out. So Bryan doesn't get the match. Bryan then drags Jey back into the ring in anger and locks in the yes lock, but then Roman makes the save. Roman then gets caught into a yes lock and Jey has to make the save, and then Roman, having had enough of Bryan here, nails him with a spear, locks in the guillotine and just chokes him out. Bryan is just a heap in the middle of the ring when all is said and done. Now I'm going to give this one an A. I loved Roman panicking tonight. I love that Roman is still, claiming to be this dominant figure, and while he may have the belt, while he may be a big strong boy, he's still having to make politically motivated decisions here. He's planning on taking Bryan out weeks before the pay-per-view, and it's just building and building and building for him. There's going to be more and more stresses as this goes on. Jey keeping Bryan out for the count-out just so that he wouldn't win was a stroke of genius as well. I really like that. It does feel like we are potentially onto something here, though, because Roman appears to be running a bit scared, and we do have Fastlane in the way, so I guess we've just got to tune in and find out what's going to happen. But in terms of an overall grade for SmackDown this week, I'm going to give it a B+. So it was a pretty strong week, with all being said. There wasn't really a lot of filler, and we had a lot going on. I'll just read my notes here, but we got confirmation of Belair Banks. We got Bryan throwing his hat into the Mania match ring, and the whole Edge situation, and Roman, and everything that ultimately happened in the main event. We got a slightly more dominant and serious Alpha Academy, and with that, a slightly more solidified Healy Otis anyway. And of course, this is just the potential of Rollins and Cesaro. I can't wait for those two to go. I just can't. It's going to be so good. But anyway, that has been graded for this week's SmackDown. What did you think of the show? Let me know in the comments below. But as always, stay safe. I've been Sam from Cultaholic Wrestling, and I'll see you soon.